The movie begins with Nick, who is married to Maggie, who unfortunately suffers a cardiac arrest and is hospitalized. He is now burdened with the responsibility to manage the household. One day, Nick takes the children to Kobold Tech, where he seeks to procure a robot specifically for cooking, cleaning, and childcare. While pitching the functions of these robots to Nick, Isla wanders away, during which she comes across several models of robots performing different functions. While Nick goes on in search of her, she comes across Alice, who takes her to an anxious Nick. She offers to watch over Isla while Nick finishes his shopping, but then she ends up being the exact robot they had come to procure. After making payments the following day, Alice delivers herself to Nick's house, where she immediately begins to perform her functions, playing the role of Maggie, Nick's wife, who is still hospitalized over a heart attack incident. Alice gives primary control to Nick, and during cleanup, she picks up a photo of Nick and Maggie together. Later, when they arrive home for the day, Alice serves dinner, but Isla notices that the food is not as tasty as her mom's. That night, Isla creeps out of bed and uses a stool to try to steal some cookies, and while at it, Nick hears a loud scream, then rushes off to see Alice, who caught Isla right on time before she fell. Alice sustains an injury during the rescue. Much later, Nick spots her caring for her injury in a rather half-naked outfit. He gives her Maggie's clothes to put on, after which the injury seems to have completely healed. The following day, Nick takes Isla to go see Maggie at the hospital, along with Alice and their little baby. Maggie is rather surprised to see Alice but doesn't give much thoughts to it. She asks why Nick didn't get an Old English butler instead of Alice, but he distracts her with a few romantic gestures and comments. At Nick's construction job, while at work, they notice the presence of a robotics company which happens to be Kobold Tech. Nick quickly confronts Lewis, their supervisor, over a confirmed suspicion of having workers replaced by robots. Lewis doesn't deny this, as he states that the company is drowning in the ditch, and if they don't switch labor force, they will be done for. It appears that his construction company is replacing everyone except for Nick, who they need as a human foreman on their side. He returns home to meet a crying baby and quickly goes to console the child while Alice stares at him in a creepy manner. While fixing his car in the garage, Alice comes in and they begin to have conversations, during which Nick reveals the situation at his workplace to her. Then she pours him a drink and calms him down. A few hours later, Alice finds Nick watching a movie called Casablanca. She surprisingly knows all about this movie, even though she hasn't actually seen it. Nick encourages her to watch it with him so she can enjoy the experience rather than obtaining information about it from files stored in her memory. He invites her to sit with him, asking her to forget everything she knows about the film so she can enjoy watching it as humans do. Consequently, Alice asks Nick to manually restart her by holding the power button down for 7 seconds. After rebooting, she claims it worked and proceeds to watch the movie with him when Maggie's call interferes with the film, and Nick gets the call, excited for Maggie's imminent heart surgery. They all visit Maggie the following day as the doctor prepares her for surgery. Maggie is all prepped for surgery and they leave her except for Alice, who she wants a word with. Maggie states that she intends to survive the surgery, but if she dies, Alice should take good care of Nick, not let him drink too much, and so on. Hours later, the doctor runs out, causing Nick to inquire about the situation. He is told that a massive storm up north has delayed the surgeons, and the procedure has to be rescheduled. That night, he keeps Maggie company, not knowing that she is in tears. Nick returns home, drinking and fixing his car when Alice walks him. He seems a little drunk and a little mad at the possibility that his children may end up growing without their mom. He wants to smash a bottle, but she prevents him, surprisingly stronger than he is. Nick observes that Alice actually has a pulse, just like a normal human being. She makes him feel the pulse directly on her chest. In this moment, Alice, who has been nursing feelings for Nick, takes advantage of his circumstance, seducing him to be intimate with her, but he quickly walks away. Nick goes to work the following day to see robot Sims all over the place. At night, after putting Isla to bed, he notices that all pictures of Maggie have been removed. Nick confronts Alice about this, and she admits to removing them, stating that they were making Isla sad. He instructs her to replace the pictures immediately. Nick goes to hang out with Monty and the rest of his ex-colleagues from the construction site. While they drink, they discuss about the encroachment of robot Sims in practically every aspect of human life. Together, they drive home, then Monty opts to make a stop at the construction site to wreak a little havoc. The group break into the premises where Monty uses Nick's code to unlock the storage unit for the robot Sims. After having a brief conversation with a robot construction worker, Monty smashes his head out of anger. When Nick arrives home, he goes to take a shower when Alice comes in with a towel, after which she notices his racing heart and intense breathing, thinking that he must feel even a slight thing for her. She seduces him, and even though Nick resists her charm, she makes him wear a blindfold while nailing him, making Nick feel as if it's Maggie while mimicking Maggie's voice as well. Alice ends up getting exactly what she wanted. The following morning, an awkward moment ensues between them. After the event last night, Nick makes it clear that they can't engage in such act anymore, and she thinks it's because he wasn't satisfied with her performance. Nick insists that it's wrong because he has a wife and kids and shouldn't be doing that with her. He goes crazy when she states that it reduced his stress levels. Nick gets to work only to find Lewis and some Cobalt tech staffs all over the place. Lewis thinks Nick had something to do with the robot whose head was broken the previous night. He states that Nick's code was used to unlock the storage unit, but he pleads an alibi to have been at the hospital with Maggie, who immediately gives him a call. Lewis threatens to fire Nick if he is caught wanting. Maggie finally undergoes the heart surgery performed by robots, and it's successful. She returns home with Nick and is later seen trying to resume her duties as a mom. At dinner, Maggie almost falls while dishing out food. Isla confirms Maggie's cooking to be better than Alice's. She begins to act strange and opts to go upstairs, refusing to let Nick join her. While sleeping, she hears Isla screaming and runs out to get her, but unfortunately falls down the stairs in what seems like an intentional manipulation by Alice to endanger her life. Maggie is carried back up by Alice. When Nick returns from work, Alice tells him about the incident, and he goes to see Maggie. Nick treats his wife to a very romantic dinner in their home while the jealous robot watches. Dinner ends with some romantic actions between Maggie and Nick, during which Alice barges in on them, much to Maggie's displeasure. Monty pays a visit to Nick, thanking him for covering up for his foolish act the other night. He reveals that his wife left him for a robot, and Nick consoles him. Lewis has pressed charges on just Monty for trespassing. Monty thinks someone talked and that Nick is that someone. He is furious that Nick gave him away despite Nick's denial. The altercation results in a fierce fight, and Monty is about finishing Nick off when Alice intervenes. He gives Nick until tomorrow to get Lewis to drop the charges against him or get dragged down with him. A short while after, Alice tells Nick that when Maggie dies, he can still be with the woman he loves through her, but he restates that she can never be Maggie. Alice begins to cut herself to prove that she can be whatever Maggie is. That night, Alice pays a visit to Monty. She tells him that Nick is unaware that she is here. Monty asks her to leave, and when she refuses, he pulls out a gun but gets subdued and defeated multiple times in his house. Alice proceeds to shoot him but is prevented by Monty's female robot Sim, who Alice guns down immediately, after which she kills Monty. Nick goes to see Lewis, asking for the charges to be dropped, only to be informed of Monty's death. He is in shock. While Maggie is having her bath, Alice comes in stating that Nick would be very upset if she dies. She hints that Nick is running late from work and that she understands that Maggie cannot meet his physical needs. The conversation reveals to Maggie that Alice has been having physical relations with her husband. She gets furious at Alice. When Nick returns, she confronts him about having relations with Alice. While the couple argue, Alice eavesdrops on their conversation. Nick defends himself, saying that he was heartbroken and it didn't mean anything to him. While the argument continues, Alice grabs their little baby and goes to the bathtub. Isla is now awake from all the yelling. Alice proceeds to drown the screaming baby as Isla calls out to her parents. Nick attempts to break in but cannot, so Maggie goes through the back window trying to rescue her drowning baby. While Nick struggles with the door, Maggie enters the room from the window and Alice grabs her while Nick quickly takes the baby out of the water. He smashes her head with a light bulb, but she gets back up, saying that his family is hurting him. Maggie electrocutes Alice until she shuts down completely. She calls emergency services, and when the medics arrive, they confirm their baby to be fine. Maggie opts to go along with them to the hospital, leaving Nick behind. Cobalt Robotics have retrieved Alice and are examining her in a lab when she reactivates and immediately corrupts other robots, killing the programmers in the facility and swapping her body. Alice pays a visit to Nick at a bar where she reveals that she killed Monty because she wanted to help him. She insists that Nick isn't happy. Then he pulls a plug from her head and takes off to stop Alice, who has taken another form to hunt down his family at the hospital. Maggie tries to hide the children from the vengeful robot when her phone rings. It's Nick calling. She escapes with her children after the distraction and attempts to leave the area, but is prevented by Alice as Nick races to the hospital to rescue his family. Alice now has Maggie cornered, saying that if she had her heart, maybe Nick would love her same way. She attempts to rip Maggie's heart out when she pushes her for Nick to run her over with his car. After the accident, Nick seems to have died, and while Maggie cries, Alice gets back up, going after Maggie, trying to strangle her to death, when Nick slams her with a hard object severally, and Alice is defeated. Nick is eventually hospitalized, and the couple are back together again. The final scene reveals that Alice's programming has spread to other robots, hinting at a larger and deadlier threat. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to stay updated for more contents like this. Thanks for watching.